Are projects like XRP, Hbar, and Cardano about to be added to the Federal Reserve? We're going to show our listeners how the United States government could be using these particular assets in the reserve that's being created for the United States government. Hbar, Ripple, these specific projects have been a part of the most important conversations here in 2025, and today is another example of this massive digital shift. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Good Evening Crypto, your favorite crypto news related channel. If you enjoy this content, smash that like button and subscribe, as you're going to get an update every single day, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. Now, Johnny, why is it always Hbar and XRP that are a part of these conversations? Well, those projects are working directly with the United States government. Chainlink is another primary example of the United States going out and working with blockchain companies during the Trump administration. Well, this user highlights how that's only the beginning, as the RLUSD stablecoin is going to play an entirely new narrative here. We're going to let the clip play and break it down. Here it is.
So hopefully for the meantime, we still have paper currency to use. We will be using, and they will implement the Ripple RLUSD. It is now an approved stablecoin. They will use the blockchain XRP. There's even chatter that XRP, as well as Hbar, and maybe even XLM, could be part of strategic reserves.
Wow.
Where the United States will own blocks, maybe 1 billion or more chunks of those, knowing their vital nature to the infrastructure of the financial system as we go tokenization.
Here's the reason why, Johnny Crypto. This is an asset class that's $3 trillion today. It's going to be 10 trillion a few years from now, eventually $100 trillion asset class. Most people seem to believe as long as crypto survives, we are going to get there. Well, why wouldn't you give Americans the best shot at accumulating that wealth that is being generated? You want Americans to own Bitcoin, to own XRP, to own Chainlink, to own Stellar, to own Hbar, because these are going to be the fastest growing assets during the Trump administration, and most likely far beyond that as the digital era fully evolves before our very eyes. What are some of your thoughts about these major players, once again, being a part of a strategic reserve here inside the United States?
Well, Abs, first of all, you have to understand, whenever a government is going through an interesting change here. They've been used to what money has been for the longest time, gold, right? Gold has backed all our paper currency. But we're in a very unique transition right now, Abs. We're shifting from basically something that was just one thing that kind of backed the whole thing to now all these different potential blockchains that could provide or be equivalent to what gold was or to what fiat is. And I think governments are struggling right now to try and figure out, what is that? Is it going to be XRP? Is it going to be Cardano? Is it going to be Hbar and all these other ones? So it makes sense if you think about them. If they're still trying to figure out in its infancy where are we going, it makes sense to have a strategic reserve that may capture some of these assets and kind of put them on the side, hold them, and use those to call. You have to understand, the only reason why people use fiat is because the government said it's safe to use fiat. That's it, Abs. There's no other reason why you and I use paper money. If the government wasn't willing to back it, you and I would not be trading green bills. Trust me, right? We'd probably be using gold or some other thing, whatever else the government said is safe. Well, what gets me excited about the strategic reserve is if the government is getting behind these and they say, hey, we see strategic reserve, we see this as what could potentially be the future of money. And the fact that they literally called out some of our beloveds here, right? XRP, Solana, and Cardano. That's got to make you extremely excited that in this early of the infancy, they're publicly announcing where they're almost it's almost like you're playing poker and they're showing you their cards, kind of letting you see what they're thinking. To me, that's what's exciting, Abs, is they are now starting to project a little bit of how they're thinking about. Now, listen, this is going to change 100 times between now and where we land, but at least we kind of know where they're starting. And if you're ever looking for an early indicator on where to invest, it's nice to know when the government is pinpointing where you should be looking.
Guys, if you believe that Hbar, XRP, Solana, Cardano, these are going to be part of the United States crypto reserve, smash that like button and leave a comment in chat. Now, Johnny, believe it or not, this is a statement that took place less than 6 months ago from the United States president. We get so much news here in the crypto industry. You would have thought this came out 10 years ago, but less than 6 months ago, Donald Trump tweeted out these exact statements in regards to a U.S. crypto reserve. A U.S. crypto reserve will elevate this critical industry after years of corrupt attacks by the Biden administration. which is why my executive order on digital assets directed the presidential working group to move forward on a crypto strategic reserve that includes XRP, Solana, and Cardano. I will make sure the United States is the crypto capital of the world. We are making America great again, and we are also making crypto investors wealthy again here inside the United States. But Johnny, it doesn't stop there. The critics are coming for Ripple and XRP because they see the relationships that have been developed between the Ripple leadership team and the key players here in the Trump administration. We also had a friend, Mark Yusko, talk about this back in January. There were serious conversations between Ripple and the United States government for the XRP ledger to be implemented as a base layer for national banking. That is a direct quote from XRP contrarian Mark Yusko. Here's Caitlin Long saying something very similar. They don't want Ripple to succeed, and they're frustrated that they are.
Powerful people in the U.S., unfortunately, has legalized corruption in the form of pay-to-play. And boy, that's just the way it works. Anybody who makes political donations gets access. And we're seeing that right now in the scrum of whether Ripple will be part of the strategic Bitcoin reserve. There's been a big fight over that. And then now it turns out that Trump might not follow through with his advisory council and might instead do a series of summits because of the tribalism in our space. And that is mostly Ripple being the controversial one. But Ripple gave an enormous amount of money to politicians. And so they get access. It's so fascinating how it's just a pay-to-play system. It just is. And that's not, unfortunately, something in all the corruption that's being uncovered that it.
Well, Johnny Krypto, it's unfortunate, but it's true. Since the super PAC was enabled back during 2010, I think during the second Obama term, we've seen this play a major role in American politics forever. This is not an issue that's unique to crypto. Now, the reason they're frustrated is because a company like Ripple is sitting on $100 billion escrow, $7 billion in liquid cash, and another $12 billion in liquid XRP. Nobody can really compete with a balance sheet like that. So I think there's that part of this. And there's the other end of it. Caitlin Long applied for the federal banking license and was denied. Ripple applied for the federal banking license, and people think it's going to be approved here towards the end of 2025 and into early 2026. All of these narratives tie together. The close relationship Ripple has with the U.S. government, the success of the XRP ledger and the XRP investors, and now the political games that have been played. First, it was the anti-crypto army. Now it's the Bitcoin-only army.
Listen, you can play this game two ways. You can go, dream pie in the sky of what you want the world to be, okay? We all want the world to be non-corrupt, and we want it to be fair. And that's just, then you wake up to, you wake up to reality, and you're like, sorry, Caitlin, it's not how the world works. The world works is pay to play. Money drives everything. And that's just how it works. So you cannot fault a company or even criticize a company like Ripple for doing what the system is set up to do. So, we got super PACs that allow you to donate, and that gets you access to them, and that's just how it works. So to sit here and criticize them for doing that is the wrong way to approach it, because you can then criticize every single company in this country or in the world that has lobbied all our politics. God, look at our politicians. They look like race cars. They've got lobbyists all over them. So that doesn't hold any water to me. I would have loved to heard, and I wish Caitlin would come on the show. I would love to know what her problem is with Ripple or XRP, the technology. What is the problem? There shouldn't be an issue that they lobbied. I mean, everybody lobbied. FTX lobbied. Solana lobbied. Everybody lobbies these players. So that's not the issue. So I need Caitlin to tell me, what is the problem, and why is it okay for ETH to get a free pass and lobby the government, and for Bitcoin community to lobby and get a free pass, but yet it's a problem when Ripple does it? See, that to me, there's another underlying reason there that she hasn't stated. I don't know what it is, Abs. Maybe she just doesn't like the technology. Maybe she don't like Brad. I don't know. But to me, doesn't mean anything to me. Here's what you all need to worry about. Is the U.S. government going to create a crypto reserve? That's number one. We've heard sometimes yes, sometimes no. And two, which assets will be in there if they do? And how are they going to accumulate? Are they going to spend taxpayer dollars? Is it going to be through whatever they confiscate? Those are the things I'm looking for, Abs, to really see the indicator of where this whole thing is going. And I'm keeping a very close eye, and everybody should, on the Senator Loomis bill, where she's trying to get the Bitcoin Reserve Act passed, to see, because that's going to also be, I think, a driving factor, even though it's Bitcoin focused. If we get that, I think it's going to be kind of like what we always talk about, there's a halo effect, and then you'll start to see Bitcoin plus, right? Bitcoin plus ETH, Bitcoin plus Ripple, or XRP, and so on and so forth. So I think that that's more important than the fact that here we are criticizing who lobbies the government. No, I'm sorry, Caitlin. Anybody who wants to get something passed in Congress, they know the rules. You have to go by a congressman. That's just how it works.
And the logical conclusion here, guys, is again, this is a very competitive market. And we covered this during our episode yesterday. So go and check it out, where a Swift employee was criticizing Ripple and XRP. And what did we say, Johnny? This is competition criticizing competition. And Ripple decides to take the high road, while typically the Bitcoin community and the traditional bankers, they decide to go for the low blows. But this is a brand new update we just got this morning. The Federal Reserve will be holding a conference to discuss crypto, stablecoins, tokenization, and AI. And this is going to take place on October 31st, 2025. So if you want major indicators, once again, that October is going to be the euphoric month, we've got ETF approvals. We've got October being the most bullish month in the history of crypto. Did you know that? Average returns for October are 25% in the crypto market.
That's why they call it October.
So we got that working for us. We've got the Fed reducing rates as well. And we have the Clarity Act being worked on. And we have the liquidity cycles at play. So many bullish catalysts. And this is just added to the list. The Federal Reserve is also going to be discussing these topics starting in October. Johnny Krypto, your thought?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I always laugh like all these things are timed so perfectly. Listen, this is all planned. All right. It's all set up. There's no coincidence here, Abs. They know when the ETFs are going to be approved. They probably know when the Clarity Act is going to get approved. And then just think about all these think of all of the massive bullish news that could potentially be coming out in October, right? It's going to be massive. There's so many potential catalysts that just you can see it driving to a huge October, November, and maybe even December. That's why I'm so excited for Q4 of this year. And if we don't get it, I'm almost certain we're going to get it in Q1 of 2026. So to me, it's like, look for the next 3 to 6 months to be life-changing money coming into this space that early on. I just can't help but feel like we are on the precipice of something massive from a liquidity event, with all these things just seeming to line up in the October, November timeframe.
Guys, if you enjoyed this content, smash that like button, and we're going to dive into this next video.
And they're this weird offshore thing now called a foundation. Most people don't know about these foundations. If the foundations say, okay, you know what, the United States is hospitable to tokens and to crypto, I'm going to come onshore and I'm going to be like a normal software company. And I'm just going to be like a version of Unix, like an open source software company that specializes in something.
That's sort of what Ripple was trying to do.
Yeah.
And then they got accused, some would say rightfully, of issuing securities away from the securities laws. Yeah. And they fought it for, I don't know, 12, 10 years, however long. Right. So these companies will look increasingly more normal.
So some will, right? Yeah. And the test is, right, to avoid being a security, all be securities, is, are you centralized or decentralized, right? The good thing about Bitcoin is completely decentralized. There's no one person in charge. Other companies, it'll be a range of solutions.
Well, the XRP ledger is decentralized. And now that the war on crypto is over, we are going to see companies buying crypto assets in a way we have never seen before. But if you believe products like Hbar, Solana, and Cardano will be purchased by the United States government, smash that like button, leave a 1 underneath the video, and we'll see you all in the next one.